Yes, our Soapbox Social panel is here again. Pipeline politics is heating up again amid news that Prime Minister Mark Carney, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, and even Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe have been talking about a new northern pipeline through BC and also lifting the ban on oil tankers on the North Coast. All this without BC Premier David Eby. Well, David Eby was on the CBC's Power and Politics this afternoon making this comparison.
I mean, I feel like I'm watching a couple tourists wearing sandals wander into the woods on the north shore of Vancouver, saying, don't worry about us, we know where we're going. They're going to have to be rescued by a helicopter, and guess who has to send the helicopter? In terms of British Columbia's knowledge about the stakeholders, about what's required, about any aspect of this pipeline, which does not actually exist, I think we can bring some information to the table.
Okay, that's BC's Premier David Eby reacting to discussions apparently between Prime Minister Mark Carney, Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe about a new oil pipeline through our province, northern BC. So here with us in studio right now to share their thoughts is our Soapbox Social panel. Kyla Lee is a Vancouver criminal lawyer for Acumen Law Corporation. Hello.
Hello.
Also with us, Amir, the host of the podcast This is Van Color. Mo, hello.
Hi, Gloria.
Mo, what do you think is going on here politically? These discussions with everyone but us, it seems.
We should be offended, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, I think particularly when it comes to this northern pipeline, the challenges are very political and they're slightly economical as well. First of all, the first challenge is finding a proponent. This is a very expensive project. So just finding an investor or a group that wants to be a part of this, that's challenge one. The second is buy-in from 40 to potentially 60 Indigenous groups, because we know that in the past, opposition from the Haida Nation, Haisla Nation, and other First Nations, really did stop the Northern Gateway pipeline. And then third, as we're talking about right now, is the involvement of the British Columbian government and our buy-in on this pipeline. So it's a little strange that we're left out of it, especially when you do have federal Liberal MPs saying that the only way this pipeline can go through is with First Nations buy-in and with buy-in from the province of British Columbia, and yet we're not at the table.
Well,
very strange.
Well, and Kyla, BC does have four projects on Canada's nation-building list. How worried should we be that Mark Carney is apparently having these conversations about a different BC project without our input?
I mean, is anybody saying I told you so? When C5 was tabled, the legislation that's essentially making this kind of the discussion that they're allowed to have now, lawyers and critics were saying that this was legislation that was going to allow them to do this. So yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that this is going on. This is essentially why he created this legislation, was to give him the power to do this. I think it does put projects that are going on in the province at risk, because as soon as you do something that, First Nations here are going to say, we don't want this, or this is going to compromise what we want, they're going to pull their support for projects that we have, and you're going to see things end up in the courts. And as we've seen with other court decisions involving First Nations recently, that's only going to cause more chaos in the province, and I don't think anybody in BC is going to be happy about the outcome of any of it.
And how do you get a proponent when there's all that uncertainty and chaos,
well,
right?
Exactly. And Kyla, Jonathan Wilkinson, the Liberal MP for North Vancouver Capilano, he has said that a number of things would need to happen before the tanker ban could change, and that would include discussions with the BC government, with coastal First Nations. How real is a potential northern pipeline?
It seems to be very real. I do think that it's serious, and we should be treating these, I almost want to say threats from the federal government and from Alberta seriously, especially because the federal government does have the power to sort of override these types of things now. And, we've seen the federal government before, and when we've had development-interested governments push through things without First Nation support and let the courts sort it out while the projects move ahead.
Well, it's interesting, Mo, because the Globe and Mail is reporting that our BC Energy Minister here, and Adrian Dix, he's signaling support for a plan to increase the capacity at the pipeline we already have, the Trans Mountain pipeline to Burnaby, and that could include dredging under the Second Narrows Bridge. We've heard the federal government talking about wanting to do that as well. You remember when the NDP opposed Trans Mountain expansion. What is going on here?
Adrian Dix is taking talking points for me, because a few weeks ago when we were talking about this, I said that I'm curious why they're not exploring this. And when I said that, I got a lot of feedback from people to explain exactly why. It's not as simple as just dredging up a deeper port. We know that the Burrard Inlet is both too narrow and too shallow to take in the large tankers that we want to bring in. Right now, they can only take in the medium-sized tankers, and there is a bottleneck through the Narrows where only one tanker can proceed at a time. This is all about geography. I think it's really easy to say, oh, we'll dredge everything up, but it becomes really complicated when you have bridges involved. Even if you were to dredge depth, turning around a super tanker would be very difficult. So again, I don't see it as that viable, or it's certainly very challenging, but I think it's an easy thing to say to kind of kick the can down the road of something that won't happen right away.
It would be the vessels that are there already, but they would be filled 100% as opposed to 80% now.
Sure, but again, I think even the process of just dredging up around the bridges is a lot more complicated than we're giving it credit for, and we don't know how that would affect the structural integrity of those bridges.
Well, let's go back to a conversation again we had a few weeks back, and Kyla, I'm sure you had some feedback on what you said here on the air as well. We were talking about public sentiment, how people felt about pipelines. There was this Angus Reid poll that we were discussing that found that a majority of Canadians, a majority of British Columbians would actually support a new pipeline to the North Coast. So here we are, a month later. What do you sense as public sentiment right now?
I think right now, at least especially with the events that have been unfolding today, it is shifting away. I think people don't like the sort of bullying from Ottawa and the bullying from other provinces. No, that never sits well with people in British Columbia. I do think, though, that there's an avenue for the federal government to get more public sentiment and public support, which is, playing off this uncertainty that's around land claims and this distrust that people are developing with First Nations and their claims, and saying they're trying to obstruct you from being more prosperous. I think that the government could use that as a way to get more support and to sort of override the concerns that are coming out today about the bullying.
And what was it for you like? What was it like for you after you said that on the air? Were you saying, I'm not feeling as hardline against pipelines?
Yeah, I didn't love what was in my inbox and my mentions that evening, but that's fine. It's not the worst I've seen on the internet.
Okay, well.
Really quickly, I think it's worth mentioning that David Eby is also having to satiate his base. There are a lot of people that feel like he's capitulated on a lot of environmental issues, particularly the carbon tax. And so, I think there are elements of his base that really want him to stand firm on something, because it seems like anytime there's a little pressure from the federal government or opposition parties, he ends up caving. So I'm curious to see how long he drags this out.
Okay, well, let's move on to civic politics, because there's lots to talk about there as well. Vancouver's Mayor Ken Sim, he was on the early edition this week with Stephen Quinn, defending his budget that would mean a freeze in property tax rates.
Mayor and council, we act as a board of directors and a chairperson. So if you have a board and chair of a large organization, with 10,000 team members, it is highly unusual to go line by line in every single department. You have to look at these things at a global level, and the members have an opportunity to ask specific questions on areas of concern, which people have.
So, Mo, how well do you think the mayor made his case just there?
Not that good. I think there's a fundamental difference between a board of directors where, you have a duty and obligation to shareholders, and you have a fiduciary duty to maximize profit, versus a city council where you have a duty to residents. You have a duty in terms of delivering services, public safety, and the well-being of everyone, whether they are paying property taxes or not. So I don't think that holds the same. I think that certainly in the public sector, accountability and transparency is far more important than any private company. So I don't think the analogy is there. I will say that, as I think I said last week, the city's general manager of finance even admitted that this budget is different. It doesn't have the same sort of specific details that we found in past budgets. And I know that Mike Klass, an ABC councillor, said, oh, well, this is how Burnaby does it. But no one's really explained why this is a better way of doing it. No one's explained. They say, oh, this is done in the private sector. This is done by other cities. Okay, but why is it better? Well, I haven't heard that case yet.
No, it's true, and it does happen. You're right, in other municipalities. But why is it better? Again, is the bottom line. And here we are, 11 months from the Vancouver election right now. We should know all the impacts of the budget by then. ABC has released detailed budgets before. They have had a majority on council. Why do you think they've taken this approach, Kyla?
I think there's one of two ways it's going, and I think it's like opposite ways, but it's got to be one of the two. Number one, they're gearing up for an election. They're focusing on the election, and this is just, some big ticket bait to hang out there to get people to vote for you. No property taxes. On the other hand, it might be a sunset. It might be saying, hey, we know we don't have a good chance of being reelected, so we're going to phone it in on the budget and sunset out our leadership that way.
Wow, a sunset budget? Mo, what do you think? Well, not only that, but pro crime and safety. I mean, not pro crime, pro safety, anti-crime, pro safety. Oh man, yeah, that one wouldn't get them any votes. No.
ABC is in it to win it. I don't think this is a sunset budget by any means. I think they're there and they're going to put up a very valiant effort and a campaign next year. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. I think we'll find out the details soon enough, but I think this is, along with other things, a branding exercise. They want to show that they are fiscally responsible and that they're all about public safety, and this is what they're trying to accomplish.
Okay, we'll stay on that one for sure, because we've had 600 people that signed up to speak toward council, so they're definitely getting an earful this week. Let's look ahead to next month, though. The CBC, as you know, is doing something new for our annual Make the Season Kind fundraiser for Food Banks BC. We're including kindness karaoke this time around. So we've been, asking for public to audition for the chance to sing along to a live band. So I would like to hear from each of you. What song would you choose for each other? So Kyla, what did you choose for Mo?
In kindness to Mo, I picked the greatest song for karaoke that I could think of, which is Total Eclipse of the Heart. You get to belt, you get to go soft, you get to be emotional. It riles up the crowd. It's everything to deliver the top-notch karaoke performance.
She wants me to be super cringe.
Okay,
I love it.
Let's just try it out, shall we, George?
Once upon a time, there was a light.
I don't know the words.
You don't know the words?
Now there's only love in the dark. Nothing I can say. A total eclipse of the heart.
We could just do a sing-along. We'll do a Soapbox Social sing-along. Okay, Mo, what did you pick for Kyla?
I wanted something to suit her personality. So I picked The Clash, I Fought the Law.
What do you think of that choice? You guys didn't talk about this beforehand, did you?
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't. Although I'm disappointed because doesn't the law win in that song?
That's what makes it funny.
Let's just hear a little of that.
I won. The law, I won.
And Kyla won.
I knew she'd put her own spin on it. That's why I picked it.
Do you want to sing along with us on the stage for our Make the Season Kind?
Why not?
Why not?
I couldn't embarrass myself more. So.
I love your energy. Thanks, you two.
Good to see you.
That's our Soapbox Social panel. Mo Amir is the host of This Is Vancouver podcast. Kyla Lee is a criminal lawyer for Acumen Law Corporation.